All right, if you feel like you've been fighting a losing battle with toenail fungus, trying every single thing and getting absolutely nowhere, then you are in the right place. We are going to break down a super clear, really effective nightly routine that's designed to finally tackle those stubborn cases by getting to the real source of the problem.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. This is the big question, isn't it? Why does it feel like no matter what you do, the creams, the sprays, maybe even prescriptions, that darned fungus just seems to come roaring back? It's incredibly frustrating.
Well, the answer is actually surprisingly simple, and it's the very reason most people get stuck in that loop. It's because almost all of those treatments are just working on the surface. They can't get past the nail itself, and that's not where the real problem is. To really solve this, you first have to understand the battlefield. The real enemy is what I call the unreachable fungus. It's hiding out in a fortress, deep down underneath your nail in the nail bit.
And that fortress, its main defense is the keratin barrier. That's just the thick, protective protein layer your nail is made of. The fungus basically sets up shop right underneath it, where it's totally safe and sound, completely protected from pretty much anything you just spread on top.
So, if we can't get through the shield, what's the plan? Well, we need a new plan. We need a 5-step nightly routine, a specific action plan that's designed to do one thing and one thing only: penetrate that barrier.
And you can really see the difference in the approach right here. Traditional treatments, they just sit on the surface. They might give you a little temporary relief, but they fail to actually reach the fungus. This method, on the other hand, is all about getting through the nail, completely changing the environment underneath it, and finally, addressing the root cause.
So here it is. This is the exact playbook. Step 1, soak your foot in warm water for about 5 minutes, just to soften the nail, and then, this is key, dry it completely. Step 2, gently file the surface of the nail. We're not trying to cause damage, just thin out that keratin shield a little bit. Step 3, and this is the magic step, apply the combo. First some diluted apple cider vinegar, and then follow that with a few drops of hydrogen peroxide. Step 4, massage it all in. Really get it into the skin around the nail and the cuticles, because fungus can hide out there too. And finally, step 5, air it out. No socks overnight. You need that foot to stay dry with plenty of airflow.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds kind of like a random mix of steps, right? But it's actually a very specific strategic attack. There's real science behind this. What we're doing is systematically creating an environment where that fungus just can't live.
So let's get into the why. Why does this specific combination actually work so well when so many other things seem to fail? What's really going on here? Well, it's basically a 4-pronged attack. First, the apple cider vinegar helps to soften and break down that tough keratin shield. Second, all the drying steps get rid of moisture, which fungus absolutely needs to survive and grow. Third, the vinegar's acidity changes the pH, making the whole area hostile to the fungus. And finally, the hydrogen peroxide introduces oxygen, which is actually toxic to these organisms. See, you're not just treating the fungus, you're making its home totally unlivable. Okay, but listen. Just treating the nail is not enough. This next part is absolutely critical. You can do this entire routine perfectly every single night, but if you ignore this one key part of your day, you're just going to be stuck in a frustrating loop. We have to talk about breaking the reinfection cycle.
And here's the bottom line. Your treatment is only as good as your daily habits. You can literally undo all of your hard work every single morning without even realizing it.
It really all comes down to this simple fact. If you keep putting your foot back in a warm, damp shoe, you are constantly reintroducing the same problem. Your shoes can be the biggest enemy in this fight.
So here's your super simple shoe hygiene plan. First, rotate them. Never ever wear the same pair of shoes 2 days in a row. Give them a break. Second, let them dry out completely. That means at least a full 24 hours. And third, use a good antifungal powder to keep the inside of your shoes dry and hostile to any fungus that might be lingering.
All right, let's wrap this up by talking about the path to recovery, because it is so important to have realistic expectations here. Look, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's going to take patience, and it's going to take consistency.
And let me be perfectly clear about this. There is no overnight cure. The problem didn't show up in one day, and it's not going to be solved in one day. The absolute non-negotiable key to making this work is consistency, doing it every single night.
And this timeline here gives you a really realistic roadmap. For the first 1 to 3 months, your only job is consistency. Just do the routine. Then, somewhere around months 3 to 6, you'll start to see it.
the damaged nail will begin to grow out and get pushed away. And by that 6 to 12 month mark, you should see a completely new, clear, healthy nail emerging from the base. You are literally growing out the old problem and replacing it with a healthy one.
So you see, the big takeaway here is that you're no longer just covering up a symptom. You're not just painting over the problem. You are fundamentally changing the environment and attacking the root cause. So the only question left is, are you ready to stop covering up the problem and finally, for good, address the root?